World Cup qualifying is back for January and the beginning of February, technically, but we'll call it the January qualifying window, a special window that's been made because of all the COVID craziness that's going around. We have the complete rundown of what you need to look out for. Thanks for joining us. If you have not seen our other videos like the complete guide to World Cup qualifying or our summary of what has happened in the past in World Cup qualifying for 2022, I'd recommend checking those out. They'll explain some of the format and some of the stories that we might not have a chance to touch on in this section, because two of the regions aren't playing right now. They've already reached the playoffs, technically three, but Oceania doesn't exist. They're still waiting to schedule their actual qualifying. They haven't even started. I think they're just going to play a little tournament in Qatar and decide which team's going to the Intercontinental Playoff. That's neither here nor there. Europe has already completed its group stages of qualifying and has drawn the playoff. If you missed that, Italy and Portugal are probably going to have to play each other. Here is the entire bracket for European qualifying, which will happen in March. Only 3 of those 12 teams, as you might notice from the format, will actually make it out. Africa has produced its final 10 teams. A draw will occur on the 26th of January, which is the only thing in this January window that you have to look out for, where the 5 seeded teams will be drawn against the 5 unseeded teams, and a home and away tie will be played to produce the 5 World Cup teams from Africa. Here are those teams. Of them, only Mali would be a World Cup debutante, so they are who I am rooting for. But there are 3 qualifying regions that have very interesting qualifying stories unfolding that will be playing multiple matches apiece in January. And we will start, as we always do, with Asia. Here are the standings in Asia right now. Top 2 automatically qualify for the World Cup, and in Group A, it looks like that has already been settled. Only 4 matches left to play. Iran and South Korea are far and away the best 2 teams, but if you finish in 3rd, you go into an Asian playoff against the other 3rd place team in Asia, and then go to the Intercontinental Playoff if you win that. Because of a draw that FIFA has already held, if you win that, then you play the 5th place team from South America. The other Intercontinental Playoff is the Oceania team against CONCACAF's 4th place team. Those are the 4 associations that send a team to this playoff. Nobody really watches them, but there's a ton of drama. It's where the last 2 World Cup spots are decided. And in Group A, that's where the drama is settled, because the United Arab Emirates, Lebanon, Iraq, and Syria all have a reasonable expectation that with 1 or 2 wins out of their last 4 matches, they could jump into that 3rd playoff spot and give themselves an unlikely chance at making it all the way to the World Cup. In Group B, Saudi Arabia has just exploded onto the scene. 5 wins and a draw. They are on 16 points, and in this window, they could clinch World Cup qualification. Obviously, Iran and South Korea will also be looking to clinch World Cup qualification in this window. Depending on results, Japan or Australia could also accomplish that feat, but Japan just 1 point ahead of Australia, and if you are either of those teams, you do not want to go to the playoff. You do not want to be in 3rd place and have to eventually play a South American team in order to get yourself into the World Cup, because not only is that a brutal away day, but you aren't likely to win. Oman has an outside shot at getting itself into the playoff, but China and Vietnam have been letdowns. China in particular, with 85 billion people or whatever they've got going on over there, haven't been able to put a national team together yet to grab results. I've been to China. I love you guys, but come on. As for the matches that are slated to be played themselves, the first round of matches are the 27th of January. We get treated to one of the derbies in the international game, Iran and Iraq. Iraq playing for its life. If they can get any points against Iran at all, it will be considered a victory and will go a long way towards putting them in the playoff, where Iran, with a win, could quite literally clinch its qualification for the World Cup. So there will be a lot of drama on the line on that field. Japan and China is another fabulous derby. China essentially has to win out or close to it in order to get itself into that 3rd position. So a loss there would basically end their qualifying campaign, while the Japanese are desperately looking to stay ahead of an Australia team that just has to beat Vietnam, right? Lebanon and South Korea is a big lean towards South Korea as the favorite, and Saudi Arabia against Oman. Now, Oman went to Japan and shocked the Japanese earlier in qualifying, but the Saudis have been on fire. I mean, absolutely on fire. Their only letdown is that their U23 team got knocked out of the group stages of the FIFA Arab Cup earlier this year. Quality-wise, it shouldn't be too much of a contest, and Saudi Arabia's got to be looking at all 3 points, especially at home. Which brings us to UAE and Syria. If either of those teams, particularly UAE, can win that match, it makes them likely to actually get into the Asian playoff, which would be a remarkable accomplishment for UAE. The second round of matches, though, produces probably the match in terms of overall quality on the field, because Japan hosts Saudi Arabia. If Saudi Arabia can win that match, that's likely where World Cup qualification can be officially clinched for the Saudis. If they win, Japan, right? Where the Japanese, after their poor start, the loss to Oman, they only won one of their first 3 games. Well, now they're back. They've won 3 straight. If they take care of business against China, it'll be 4 straight, and Japan will be looking, will they win in this match, to create some distance from an Australia team that is likely to win against Oman. They have a brutal road trip to Oman. Brutal. And I'm talking just in terms of miles. It's not going to be the easiest game in the world, but I'd still back Australia to get a result, especially considering how important it is for Australia to win the matches it's supposed to win. For Oman, they'll be fighting for their life. Having likely lost the last match and being likely 7 points behind Australia, it's Oman's last chance to get into the World Cup. But Japan, Saudi Arabia is where your eyes should be on February 1st. It's going to be a banger of a match. There's a lot on the line and there's a lot of quality. Iran hosting UAE should be a big result for Iran, but UAE has this incredible ability to draw everyone. Lebanon and Iraq, 2 teams that you just cannot predict what those sides are going to do, but I actually like Lebanon at home here to edge a win against the Iraqis. Syria hosts South Korea. Long road trip for South Korea. Maybe Syria can find a draw to keep itself in contention for that 3rd place spot. And then Vietnam and China. Even though the match is in Vietnam, China's got to win that one for pride. I'd back China to do well, even though Vietnam on no points, they're better than that. After that round of matches, there'll only be 2 more matches to go in Asia until we have our Asian playoff, and then eventually decide who's going to the Intercontinental. So a completely pivotal round 7 and 8 in Asia. Japan, Saudi Arabia. Look out. But now to the second region that will be playing qualifying matches in the January window. And it'll be playing 3, not just 2, 3 matches on the 27th of January, the 30th of January, and the 2nd of February, and that is CONCACAF. Now, the standings for CONCACAF, which is North, Central America, and the Caribbean, just to get you the picture in your mind, is really simple. It's 8 teams in a final group. The top 3 automatically go to the World Cup. The 4th one goes straight into the Intercontinental Playoff, where they will likely be the favorite against who you would assume would be New Zealand, the Oceania qualifier that we still don't know exactly how it's going to be determined. And as things stand, the Canadians are the only unbeaten team. If you haven't been following this, you didn't see another one of the videos where we talked about the fact that Canada is at the top of the group. Well, they're at the top of the group. 4 wins and 4 draws, coming off an absolutely gargantuan win at home in the snow against Mexico, and having produced a very important 1-1 draw at the United States early in qualifying. They have got 4 points from Mexico, 1 point from 1 match against the United States, and they open the qualifying against the United States in this round. But we'll get to that in a second. The United States is second, just 1 point off the top of the table. Its only loss being a tough 1-0 at Panama, and then Mexico and Panama are level on points. And obviously this group of 4 is competing for 3 spots at the top of the group, and the surprise one is Panama. I can't tell you how insane this is, but they had some great players that got them to a World Cup eventually, and what we thought was the last hurrah of this golden generation that Panama had had. They had the center back Roman Torres, who's been a very popular guy in the MLS forever. He was just brilliant. Blas Perez, the guy that used to do this, celebrating his goals in the MLS, he was really good too. Panama had some ballers. Even if they disappointed a bit once they got to the World Cup, they finally got to their first. But after that, they were supposed to fall away. Now they're, well, point off the US, 2 off Canada, tied with Mexico, with 6 matches to go. And they're 5 clear of a Costa Rica team that has completely fallen out of its golden generation. They've only conceded 7 goals in qualifying, but they've only scored 6 in 8 matches. It's good enough for 9 points, though. Jamaica, who is a dangerous dark horse to make a late charge up this group standing, on 7 points, but they fired their coach and they're starting to get Mikel Antonio back in the fold. El Salvador's on 6. They're in the happy to be here club, generally speaking, even though they did draw the United States. After their disappointing exit in the Intercontinental Playoff 4 years ago, it looks like Honduras is well away from World Cup qualifying level this time around. They've got 4 straight losses, including what 2 come from behind defeats to Panama and Costa Rica in the last qualifying window that essentially sealed their fate. But what's coming up on the 27th? Costa Rica and Panama. If Costa Rica wants to make a jump at getting to that number 4 spot in the table and give the United States, Mexico, and Canada some breathing room so that we can all and not be as nervous. Costa Rica needs to win that match. They're at home. This Panamanian team is still a dark horse because they've just been finding results, the only team to beat the United States. But that is Costa Rica's immediate opportunity, and I think Costa Rica pulls it off. I think Costa Rica is going to find a way to win that game. They are a winning team with a crazy crowd. As long as they're allowed to be in the stands, I think Costa Rica is going to win. Honduras and Canada. An interesting match because Honduras went to Canada and drew the Canadians to start qualifying, but for both of these teams, that has to feel like a lifetime ago. Canada is on cloud 9, and it's a cloud made of snow, so they're headed down to the Central American jungles. I think they're still probably going to get a result. Jamaica hosts Mexico. Kingston is a weird place to play. The field isn't great. It's got a very foreign vibe when you're there for the first time. This Mexican team struggled on the road a little bit. They have a bunch of vuvuzelas and stuff. The United States just went there and drew and honestly probably should have lost. Mexico's really struggling. I think if they lose this match, their coach is fired. And Jamaica's getting better. We're talking Kamar Roof, Mikel Antonio, Leon Bailey. These are good players. I think a draw might be in the cards in that match. The United States hosts El Salvador in a revenge game from the World Cup opener, which was a 0-0 draw in San Salvador. US, yeah, but you got to win that, right? The United States has got to win that. It's likely the easiest match that anybody's playing in this first round of qualifying. The second round, though, is where you draw the eye. The 30th of January, you've got Canada hosting the United States. These tickets sold out in like 45 seconds. This game is huge. The maple syrup border is going to be contentious. It's going to be hot. The Great White North against the USA, land of the free. All that other stuff, right? United States and Canada. If either the US or Canada does not win their first match and Panama does win, that means that the United States or Canada is not in an automatic qualifying position. It also means that this match takes on insane importance because if you lose and fall further behind, you're in trouble and you're under a lot of pressure going into the final 4 matches of qualifying. The United States has shown road toughness in the past, but they're going to need it on a whole other level because not only does the US have to play at Canada, the United States also has a road matchup at the Azteca against Mexico coming up later in qualifying. As for what I think is going to happen, I would assume this is going to be a draw. Canada wants to play in the snow. The United States will practice in Minnesota to get ready, and then we're going to end up tying at like 1 on a couple of corner kick goals or something. But the United States is likely going to be as healthy as it's been. Getting Serginho Dest, Gio Reyna, Christian Pulisic, Ricardo Pepi, Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie all on the field at the same time hasn't happened in qualifying yet. And I think it's going to happen for this window, which means that lineup is going to be saved for Canada. Honduras hosts El Salvador in a match of somebody trying to pick up a win for pride. Now, El Salvador, if they can get a result at the United States, will be back in the running with a win at Honduras. But that's a match that, honestly, who knows what's going to happen. I think Honduras edges it 3-2 because Honduras has talent. It's a country that always has the ability to put the ball in the back of the net, rather annoyingly. Mexico hosts Costa Rica. You think Mexico's got to take care of business there. Costa Rica doesn't have a cutting edge right now. And Panama hosts Jamaica in what has to go down as a wild card match. If Jamaica's making a run, then they get a point against Mexico and they get all 3 points against Panama. If they're not, and they fold it in under the new coach and it's not working out, then Panama is probably going to pick up the 3 points here. It's really dependent on how this qualifying opens. That brings us to the final round of matches on February 2nd, where El Salvador hosts Canada. A match that you'd have to think the Canadians are going to do well in. Maybe they were focused on the other 2 matches too much and they end up not paying attention. Shoot, the United States drew at El Salvador. It is hard to win on the road in Central America. Jamaica hosts Costa Rica in a match where one of these 2 teams wants to make a run. You gotta win that game. But the one that really draws the eye, it's not USA Honduras. The United States hosting Honduras should be 3 points for the United States. It's Mexico hosting Panama. So Mexico's really sliding. This game on February 2nd, you're going to want to watch. It's going to be edgy. Mexico's going to be feeling the pressure. Panama, if they are still up around that top 4, have the opportunity to put Mexico in a really dangerous position when we go into the final 3 matches in March. Panama is going to be ready for this game. All the Central American teams love playing against Mexico at the Azteca. Even though they don't typically do very well, they're going to be up for it. If Mexico's feeling the pressure, Mexico-Panama could actually be the spiciest game outside of USA-Canada in this entire qualifying window. I think Costa Rica hosting Panama, United States visiting Canada, and then Mexico hosting Panama are the 3 spiciest matches. When you got 3 matches going down in a week, a lot of things can change in a group. But let's head further south. It's time to look at South American qualifying going into the January window. And if you've seen any of this before, South American qualifying is freaking nuts. Brazil and Argentina have already clinched their qualification. Neither of them has lost in qualifying, which is tremendously impressive. No team's ever gone through South American qualifying without losing, and both of them still look likely to do it. They have to play each other one more time. If they both draw, it's totally possible they will both break the record at the same time. Ecuador is the other surprise package. They are 6 points clear of everybody else in an automatic spot, which leaves one more automatic spot available, and then the playoff spot in the Intercontinental. You know, just Colombia, Peru, Chile, Uruguay, Bolivia, and even Paraguay, and they're dueling for that last 1.5 spots, those last 1.5 spots, words. And things kick off with Ecuador and Brazil, which is the opportunity for Ecuador to be returned back to the group a little bit by a Brazilian team that will be looking to test out its lineups, and so Ecuador might be able to slip a draw, especially at home. Paraguay hosts Uruguay, which is essentially an opportunity for Paraguay to play their way back in. They are 4 points out right now from that qualifying position. Uruguay has been sliding. They lost to Bolivia by 3 goals. Now on the road at Bolivia is tough, but not that tough. That means Paraguay at home, despite their awful form, is presented an opportunity to reel themselves back into the pack. Chile hosts their dreaded rival Argentina. You can get any points out of that at all. If you're Chile, you're probably ecstatic. You're through the roof, over the moon, dipsy-do and everything else. Colombia hosts Peru. That's the big match, though, out of this setup, because Colombia and Peru are 1 point away from each other. If you can find a goal to win in that match, which is something both of these teams have kind of struggled to do, is actually win a lot of draws. If Colombia, particularly at home, can find a way to win, they have a pretty nice run in towards the end of qualifying, and that could be their launching pad to getting that last automatic qualifying spot that is so prized. Venezuela hosts Bolivia, so Bolivia is actually presented with an opportunity to go on the road and pick up 3 points and absolutely keep itself at the forefront of this qualifying, which I find incredibly fascinating. Bolivia is 2 points out of the World Cup right now, and their next match is on the road against Venezuela as the only team out of it. Then Bolivia plays at home against Chile, and it is so hard to play at Bolivia because they play at the top of a mountain. So Bolivia does really well in their home matches. I could see them getting 4, maybe even 6 points out of this qualifying window, and if they do that, they might just be in 4th. Now granted, their last match is against Brazil, so don't get your hopes up too much, but Bolivia does have that Brazil match at home on top of a mountain, and they do have 2 matches I would consider winnable for them in this window. I'm just saying. Uruguay does have their chance to bounce back whether they win or lose against Paraguay. They play Venezuela at home. That is a must get. 3 points for Uruguay. Argentina hosts Colombia, so this Colombia's last, I would say, difficult match on the run in home. If they can get any points there, they're going to be fine, but things are just, it's just crazy here. So many different eventualities. If Colombia, who can definitely beat Argentina on their best day, is able to beat Argentina, it changes everything about the way this group feels. I mean, it's all on a knife edge right now. It's impossible to even project out to February 1st, the second round of matches, what the table's even going to look like. Brazil hosts Paraguay, which makes it even more important for Paraguay to get a good result against Uruguay, and then Peru hosts Ecuador. If Ecuador loses at home against Brazil, it's conceivable they could lose to Peru, and I guess that would bring them back to the pack a little bit. But if you're Ecuadorian, you get 1 win out of those 2 matches, you are feeling fabulous into the last 2 rounds of play. A 1 match to watch, though, and it's one I've been circling: Colombia and Peru. The knife's edge is best personified by 2 teams that are a point apart. If either one of them wins it, they're very likely in the automatic qualifying spot going into the next round of matches. You gotta love drama like that. Every goal is going to be life or death for these teams, these staffs, these countries. That's what World Cup qualifying is all about, and in South America, it is as intense as anywhere in the world. This will all set us up for a March window while everything else is going on everywhere else in the world, where South America's indubitably dramatic conclusion will come with this middle pack that honestly I don't see being sorted out until the final day. I think it's going to be basically this close, maybe with a Paraguay falling off towards the end, where you have 4 or 5 teams vying for 1.5 spots, and all of them are in it going into the last 2 matches. That's what I fully expect after these first 2. Well, not the first 2, round 15 and 16, but out of the last 4, they're the first 2. Okay. I'm excited already for World Cup qualifying in January. I'm going to be donning my United States stuff, hoping that we get good results. I hope your country does well as well, but that can't be true for all of you. So somebody's going to be sad, and that's okay. We're here for you. We've got a Discord where you can talk about how frustrating it is, all of your problems. That's down in the descriptions. The largest football manager Discord on Discord. That, or you could just come into a live stream and vent to me. I could be live right now. You don't even know. It's the Twitch link down there. See you on a stream. Happy World Cupping.